Welcome to the Making a Multi-Million Dollar Med Spa podcast, where we dive into the art and science of building a thriving med spa. I'm your host, Kat Toronto. In this podcast, we're all about empowering medical professionals and entrepreneurs like you with the knowledge, tools, and inspiration needed to elevate your practice to new heights. Whether you're just starting your journey or you're a seasoned expert looking to expand, this is the place where the industry's brightest minds come together to share their secrets to success. So sit back, relax, and get ready to unlock the potential of your med spa with the Making a Multi-Million Dollar Med Spa podcast. Let's go on this journey together, one success story at a time. Hi, I'm Kat Toronto. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Making a Multi-Million Dollar Med Spa podcast. I'm here with James, the Chief Innovative Officer for Sofwave, and I just had the amazing experience of working with James and Dr. Jay Burns in Dallas, and I was telling him before we started, like literally it was, one of my favorite conversations ever in our aesthetic space, and you taught me so much in such a short period of time, and you were so willing to talk through all questions, and you have such a unique approach, and I've just been dying to get you on the podcast. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we talk just about your role at Sofwave? So what does being the Chief Innovative Officer, what is your day-to-day like?
It's a really good question. I've been a CTO at many companies. We already had a CTO at Sofwave who was one of the founding members of Sofwave, so I wasn't going to steal his title. So we basically decided to come up with a new title that kind of is a bit more of what I actually do. So CTOs are usually very technically driven type of people. They run the engineering teams and things like that. And while I have those responsibilities, I cover a lot more than that. I cover clinical protocols. I cover participate in marketing to make sure that our product is marketed correctly and matches up with the clinical results that we see. I work with the sales team to train them to make sure that they're talking about things accurately. I work with the clinical research team to make sure we're researching things in the right way, as well as all the other duties related to R&D and things like that. So I really cover a very broad spectrum of the entire company. I think the only person that has more of a broad focus than me is the CEO, which is Louis Kaveri. So between the two of us, we kind of tag team and make sure that what we're saying and what we're doing as a company is accurate as possible, because that's very important to us as a company.
Well, Sofwave has just made such a huge impact on my med spa. So, I'm partner at Aesthetic Care Med Spa. We have 3 locations, opening our 4th currently. And we brought on Sofwave in 2023, and every year it's grown. And last year in 2025, we did right around $370,000 just in Sofwave procedures at one location. And our second location that we opened, Liberty, we opened that location around 2020, yes, during COVID. And we brought on Sofwave a year later. So we didn't have it in 2023. We brought it on in 2024 and then 2025. And I was just looking at those numbers. And so a much smaller location, Liberty, compared to our main location. And we still did, right around $278,000 in 2025, just in Sofwave treatments at 2 locations. So, do the math. It's really, I didn't mean to jump right into the math of things, but, it's kind of fun to say, like this technology that we bring on. One of the things that tells me that it absolutely works is when I see our team year after year offering it, talking about it, building it, because, they're like me. We don't want to do treatments that don't work, right? That is just no fun. And so to see that the business is continuing to grow with it, 100% tells me that our clients are happy and our team is happy. And so Sofwave's been such a game changer for us at Aesthetic Care. And so I just love to share those big wins with our listeners, because they're always thinking about, what am I going to do next? Which technology should I use? Is this something that would fit into my menu of services? So, when I talk to you about the technology, it is different. And this is something that I picked up from Jay, but I think it explains it so well, is that you have all of the engineering and the background. You're so smart, the technology side of it. But you also talk like a physician, you talk like a provider. you teach in a way that really helps me to understand how it works and how I can get the best outcomes for my patients. And so that part is so unique to have somebody that can build the device or has the background to work with the builders of the device, and then also can like help the sales team, but help, and then, help me help our providers. So, like what is your background before Sofwave?
So a lot of that comes from just experience and doing this a long time and being part of devices that didn't deliver that they were supposed to deliver and learning from that. So my journey goes all back to when I was 14 years old. So my dad's a plastic surgeon, and Jay always likes to talk about it. He said, "This guy, he might be a CIO, but he talks as if he's, a clinician." And I can't help that. I mean, I grew up in it. I grew up in a day facility, watching my dad and other plastic surgeons operate, and watching our menu of services grow and non-invasive menu of services grow since I was 14 years old. Got involved with lasers, was completely hooked immediately, bit of a computer geek. And I was just fortunate that I had a really good mentor who is the guy who invented IPL, Shimon Eckhouse, also the co-founder of Syneron, also the co-founder of and founder really of Sofwave. And he basically kind of took me under his wing. He didn't really know how young I was at the time. But
How young were you?
I was 16, 17 years old.
Amazing.
I had worked with the original IPL, and I developed some clinical protocols to help our office and to try and squeeze the most out of it. And it turned out that we were kind of like doing better than anybody else in Asia. So the company was like, what's going on in Australia? We need to find out what's going on. And the finger got pointed to me, and I just started helping the company out and followed Shimon to Syneron and Syneron Candela. And basically it's been my life. I've spent more time doing this than anything else. Right. I'm like 44 this year, and I've been 25 years in the business. So do the math on that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of all engrossing, but I think my approach is very different. At least I think my approach is very different, because I'm always thinking about where the rubber meets the road. I'm always thinking about how the device is going to be handled in your hands or your provider's hands. And I want to design a device, a protocol that I want to use. And so I make changes and adjustments based on my initial feedback, my intuition about how to treat patients and what the comfort should be like, and how easy the product should be used to use, and how easy is it to squeeze out the best results. And I try and bring that to any of the teams, the R&D team, the clinical teams, clinical research teams, the marketing teams, the sales teams. I try and hold the line. I try and hold that message throughout the entire company. And again, it's just a lot of it is trial and error. And I think just to answer the first little bit about why Sofwave has been so successful is, one, it's a fundamentally new technology, but two, it's a new technology that benefits from the 25 years of experience that we've all had in the company. It's not just me, it's not just Lou, it's not just Shimon, it's not just the rest of our engineers. It's our tight-knit group that we had started about 20 years ago, and we've been through all of these iterations. So it's no surprise that the consistency, the efficacy, the growth in the company is the way it is. Of course, you can never take it for granted, and we're always working to improve it, but the history means a lot.
And so when you think back to all the devices that you've worked on and the treatments that you've seen or done, or when you're looking at building a device, like what is it that you look and say like, oh, this is something special, or something on the flip side of that, what you mentioned earlier, like the device that didn't work? Like, is there anything that is like a common thread where you can see like, oh, wow, this is going to work?
So I like the principle of Occam's razor, which is, I'm going to paraphrase. It's basically the simplest answer is probably the right one. And I like to apply that to every single technology that I approach, because if it takes me more than 5 to 10 minutes to explain the biology and the reason why the device is supposed to work, then it probably isn't working that way. These devices we basically run the aesthetics energy-based device sector on a negative feedback mechanism, which is you create some form of thermal injury, you hope, or thermal stimulation. And if you do enough of it, you get a result. And so I always like to break that down, and I look at things in that way. So when I look at a technology, I go, okay, what is it fundamentally doing? How can I measure it in a very simplistic, like mathematical way, like whether it's a 2D or a 3D mathematical calculation? Is it a fractional injury? Is it bulk heating? What is the basic premise of how the device is supposed to work? Then look at the clinical background, like whether it be histology and whatever, and try and bring that together. And what you'll find is that this industry is full of people that have no clue about anything related to how the device is actually working. They just reparrot and re-talk about stuff that's been done in the past all over and over and over again. And they wonder why these technologies come up and then they drop down, because they're not fundamentally understanding the basic biological principles of how the device works. And it's actually very simple. You don't need a PhD, you don't need a degree in medicine to understand how these devices work. You just need to understand or have good clinical proof, histological, microscopic level, macroscopic level, patient results, and connect those two worlds together. And if you can connect those two worlds together with a simple mathematical equation, you're probably going to be successful. And if you can turn that mathematical equation into something very simple, like a one-liner or a one hit this amount of energy, do this number of passes. Don't worry about the math. Just worry about doing these simple things when you're doing the treatment. You should be able to bring everybody up without them having to get into the details about the technology.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the details of Sofwave then. So I'm going to give a little bit of feedback or background. So we started with Ultherapy years ago, and we've used a number of non-invasive skin tightening devices. I started with Alma Accent a million years ago, and then worked with Thermi and Pelave, and then also Indiba and Exelis, and a number of different devices. But I would say Ultherapy was here at Aesthetic Care for a number of years. And so the concept of like treating the full zone, so if there was lifting that we wanted along the jawline, it was like the concept was like the bigger area you treat, the better the result that we'll get. And so we had done that for years and years, and now we're shifting to treatment to total energy and a slightly different technique. But I think it would be great to hear from you, how does Sofwave work, maybe, and why it works? And then why is it important to focus on, I'm going to simplify because the squares, the zones that you're treating, versus maybe we don't need to do the full zone. And in some cases, if we do, maybe talk about that as well.
Yeah. And so it comes down to that basic principle. So I classify and we'll just talk about the non-invasive skin lifting devices, okay, in general. So those devices need to be classified into two camps. One of those is what I would call bulk heating thermal stimulation. And one of those camps will be fractional thermal damage that creates regeneration, right? Both technologies have the potential to create regeneration, which is what we want. We want your body. We don't want to contract your tissue and have it leave it there. That's a scar. We want to be able to create either fractional zones of injury or bulk inflammatory reaction in the skin in order to progenerate or to make your body make more collagen and more elastin. Now, one of those is consistent if done correctly, and one of those is not. The one that is not is the one that's never actually doing any damage, which is the bulk heating devices, which has occupied our entire set of, even today, our entire set of a whole category of skin lifting devices that have never really have a consistency of outcome. And the operator becomes the thing that decides whether or not you get a good result with that technology. And to be honest, that's why we developed fractional technology in the first place, because fractional technology was not just about reducing downtime. Fractional technology was taking the approach of, if I injure the tissue at a certain percentage, I'm going to get a certain percentage of outcome. If I just spray and pray or wiggle about a bunch of RF, whether it be monopole or whatever. Those devices can absolutely work, but that's like taking a 1064 laser and kind of painting it over the face and like crossing your fingers and say, I hope I did enough for this patient. Let's see how they're going to get a result. And moving, I think all therapy was never thought of as a fractional device, but in practice, it actually is a fractional device, right? It creates fractional little microdots at different layers within the tissue. And we can argue about why they treat at different layers and what it all means. But at the end of the day, the result from a fractionated device is directly dependent on the volume of fractional injury that you're able to do. So if Sofwave comes along and goes, look, we don't need to go, we're not making big columns that go into the skin. We're going to flip it on its head. We're going to go, instead of a column going deep into the tissue and messing with the fat or messing with the SMAS, we know that the skin, right, your dermis is the most regenerative organ in your body. So why don't we're going to be limited in the volume that we can create because the dermis is only about 1.5 to 2 millimeters thick. So instead, let's flip the injury, the fractional injury on its side and create a 4 millimeter zone of injury that runs parallel to the skin. That means we're going to make more fractional injury in the regeneration zone. If we make more fractional injuries in the regeneration zone, we will get more regeneration of collagen and elastin. And it's just as simple as that. I had to work out a way to convert that into something that's, I don't need to explain all of those things to everybody. I just wanted to create a way that the machine will let you know when you've done a sufficient amount of fractional zones of damage that correlate to a very large volume of treatment. And you mentioned treat to total energy being one of those, and that's the protocol that we implemented. And this is just the same as you would use your Halo or your Moxie or any other fractional device. You look at how many passes at what energy, at what density do you treat, and usually you'll correlate that to a total energy when you treat a total face. Well, we don't need to treat a total face because we're not doing resurfacing. We don't get demarcated areas when you don't do any resurfacing. So it allows us to go, hang on a second, why would we go and treat an area that's not mobile and not going to get some lifting result? Why don't we just spend all of our effort getting the right amount of fractional injuries in the right zone that's going to get us the biggest bang for our buck? And that's what treat to total energy is all about. Because if the tissue is immovable, if it's already kind of tight across the bony areas of your face or tight across your cheekbones, your ability to get even more tightening from volumization of that tissue is very low. But in the areas that are very thick and sagging, that increase in tensile strength from the new collagen, that increase in the elasticity, or what I like to call gravitational resistance, right? That's what we want, right? Your skin's falling down. You want skin to resist gravitational pull. That's where the elastin and the tensile strength of your new collagen comes into play. That's where we want to focus. So by taking those two things, understanding that this is a fractional device, we should use the same metrics that we use for fractional technology and apply that to a skin lifting and volumizing device. So looking at the volume of fractional injury as a precursor to the amount of new collagen and new elastin regeneration you're going to get, that's kind of the secret sauce behind treat to total energy.
This episode is sponsored by Omni Bioceuticals, a brand grounded in real science and built specifically for the medical aesthetics space. Omni combines cutting-edge American medical research with clinically validated skincare solutions, focusing on regenerative aesthetics and post-procedure recovery. Their proprietary patented formulations incorporate growth factors, exosomes, and advanced peptide technology, all designed to meet the highest clinical standards. And with their globally patented molecular delivery technology, active ingredients are optimized for maximum absorption and performance. If your practice prioritizes evidence-based skincare, Omni Bioceuticals is a partner worth exploring.
Rebecca from Mint Aesthetics here. If you're ready to take your clinic to the next level, come train with me in Kansas City. Hands-on, patient-based, and taught inside a thriving med spa. You'll gain real experience to take home to your own clinic. Learn more at mintaesthetics.com.
Well, it was such a contradiction in my mind at first because I was so used to treating the whole zone. And if I don't treat the whole zone, then I'm not being thorough. I'm not giving a great treatment. And so it was like in my brain, I was like, oh, can I switch? Can I not? And so just hearing the way that you shared that just re-solidify it for me. And I've already switched, but I think some of our team members still have a hard time thinking not treat, how do I not treat the whole zone? But it makes so much sense. And that then you can spend, go up to 1,000 joules, per zone, let's say, for example, or millijoules. And so you can spend the time to treat to that total area in that zone to get that lifting effect and feel like, yes, I did the best treatment for this client because they had moderate to severe laxity. I need to deliver a little bit more energy, and let's focus it on the zone that's actually going to generate the result that we're looking for instead of thinking, okay, I've got this amount of time or pulses, and we're always going to spend more time or more pulses if needed to get to a better result, for sure. But let's do it where they need it. It's a little bit of a mind flip from what we've done in the past.
And the reason is because there hasn't been a fractional device that treats the same amount of volume of tissue that Sofwave does. I mean, even if you do the basic comparison between like an old therapy and you look at their fractionated injuries and you compare it to what you do with TTE, we're talking about a 5% of the volume with an aggressive old therapy treatment compared to 20 to 30% of the volume with a Sofwave treatment. So that's apples and oranges, right? And there's no fat risk and there's no SMAS, fibrosis or anything like that. But the two things that are really important that are little wins here. Number one is when you have a monopolar technology or a bulk heating technology and that is not creating a fractional injury, treating large surface areas is your best friend because the more surface area you treat, because the amount of result is going to be very minimal, the more surface area you treat, the better the result's going to be. And that's why people treat full face and neck. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's in Sofwave's favor is, no, we don't care about bulk heating. We care about how dense our fractional injuries are, and we can focus them on the areas that are going to make the biggest difference. And by doing that, it's counterintuitive, but by doing that, you'll actually make it even more obvious to the patient the areas that you treat, because if you treat everything all together, everything improves altogether, right? It's like when you lose weight and you just shrink symmetrically. It's like you still have love handles, right? And it's like, no, I want to get rid of these love handles, but you can't just spot reduce those. You're just going to shrink altogether. If you treat somebody's full face and neck and you improve them by about 10%, 15%, it's very hard to distinguish what you actually improved. Right. Whereas if you take the treat to total energy approach and you go, a patient comes in and says, I don't like this. Well, you correct this, right? If a patient comes in and does one of these where they say, I want everything, you go, oh, this is a multi-technology approach. So I'm going to do Sofwave to focus on what Sofwave does really good. And then I'm going to grab a Moxie 1927, 1550, whatever my non-ablative or ablative fractional devices are going to do. And I'm going to reduce the time I treat with the Sofwave and spend more time on the areas that make the most difference. And then I can polish the rest of the skin with another technology that I already probably have in my office. And the combination of those two are going to be well in excess of them separately and well in excess of anything that you can do with bulk heating technology.
I mean, they just work so well together. I love that conversation because so much of what we do, and as we've gotten better and better with technology, and technology's gotten better and better to where it's, okay, I feel safe in combining these two things because, of course, we're looking at getting amazing results, but safety first. And it's like those two, the Sofwave with a 1927 Moxie is just such a home run. Or maybe it's Sofwave with Halo, or maybe it's BBL for the brown spots in Sofwave. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can combine technology with it. And actually, I'd love for you to talk about not using numbing cream with Sofwave, because this also switches up our protocol. And honestly, I mean, it makes it easier to do some of the stacking because the numbing cream doesn't wear off through Sofwave. And then, you're having to, you can only get them so much afterwards. Instead, we can do a Sofwave treatment and then numb and then do a Moxie or Thylium. So what is your take on numbing and why are you saying we don't need it anymore?
Yeah, so I want to make one point. It's not like I invented this approach of like treating deep areas with specific areas and then using something like a 1927 over the top. We've been doing this approach with good microneedling radiofrequency, like a Genius or something like that, for 10 years. So this is not like a brand new approach. I don't want people to think like we just invented it. And it's been that idea about treating the deep layers and polishing the top has been around a very long time. Right?
True, but we never did ultherapy with lasers on top.
Correct.
Have we done microneedling and BBL microneedling? We've done all of those, but for we didn't use ultherapy personally at Aesthetic Care. We didn't use ultherapy that way.
Yeah, I think the reason, there's a couple of reasons for that. Time. I mean, spending 2 hours, discomfort for the patient, that's a real killer.
100%.
And we'll talk about how we get around the discomfort side of things, because there's no free lunch. You've got to feel something, right? But it doesn't have to be an 8 out of 10. It could be a 5 out of 10. So a lot of that comes down to the efficiency that Sofwave introduced. Sofwave introduced, especially with Treat to Total Energy, the efficiency of 5 minutes per square, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes of treatment, and then a 10-minute halo or BBL or 1927, whatever you like to do on top. So that I think that's a big part of it, right? The other thing that Sofwave has a huge advantage over is we cool the skin very aggressively. And so that epidermal protection, that first 0.5 millimeter of the skin that we could have already treated, like you could actually do 1927 before you do the Sofwave if you want. Like we've tested it both ways. And the reason why you can do that is because of the very strong soft cool technology that's built into the Sofwave. And so I'll lead into your real question that you asked me, which is what's the deal with numbing cream? How can we avoid it? Like, why would we avoid it? And is it important or not? I think numbing cream is really good for the lasers because it's actually affecting the exact layer in which you're actually lasing. So using numbing cream in combination with the cold air that blows through the usually your fractional laser is the optimal approach to make that fractional laser treatment comfortable. When it gets to Sofwave is the next level down. So does topical anesthetic dull that late little pinchy sensation that you feel when you hit 65 degrees with your Sofwave? Absolutely. But is it more or the same as just using cold air, right? Because it's so deep, in comparison to the other technologies, 0.5 millimeter versus another millimeter of tissue, the use of the topical anesthetic as a way of dulling the effect of the Sofwave is probably not the best tool for the job. You want more of a distraction tool. You want more of a tool that is going to make the patient feel a little bit more safe, because the mental part of the Sofwave is the trick. It's your body saying, because you've got many, many seconds to feel this, right? Is your body saying, you're burning me and I don't like that. And it's more that mental reaction to that makes people so uncomfortable. So when you take something like cold air, you're not using the cold air to overcool the skin or to cool the skin even stronger. You're using it as a distractionary tactic. And what happens is, I'll give you the analogy that I like to use is, our goal with Sofwave is to try and trick your body into letting us create a fractional injury at 65 degrees. And your body does not want us to do that, right? So this would be like taking your finger and bringing it close to a flame, right? You can take your finger and bring it close to a flame. And as soon as you get close enough where your body thinks you're going to get burnt, what happens? You pull your finger right back. You have a reflex reaction. Now, if I do that same experiment and I put an ice pack on the back of your hand, or if I put cold air on the back of your hand, even though it's not where your finger is feeling the heat from the flame, you will be able to hold your finger there for longer because of the effect of the nociception of the cooling that is distracting the pain, the larger number of pain receptors in the rest of your hand, and you'll be able to hold it there for longer. That's what cold air cooling does for you. You can even do it with a fan if you don't have a cold air. Obviously, cold air is better. You don't have to go and buy some very expensive cold air device, but even just a fan will do it. Now, here's the rub on that. You can't use the cold air and the anesthetic at the same time, because the distractionary part of it is part of that nociception in the first half millimeter of your skin. So if you're using anesthetic and you're using cold air, the cold air is not having as much of an effect on that distraction of it. And in addition, because you've got gel on the skin, you have a higher chance of getting a frostbite, because cold air was never intended to be used in a liquid environment. So that actually causes ice crystals and freezing and things like that. So you actually don't want to use the two together. It's actually beneficial to use the two separate. Use your topical anesthetic for your resurfacing. Use your cold air or fan with the Sofwave. And because the one tenets of Treat to Total Energy is, I want you to be free from thinking that the more per pulse energy you deliver to the patient, the better the result. That's not the result. The result is the total amount of energy or the total amount of fractional injuries per squared centimeter. It is not how much or how big that one shot with 7 transducers is. And all you have to do is click it down by 0.2 or click it down by another 0.2 and do 1 extra pulse per square or 2 extra pulses per square. And you're going to find that cold air or even a fan with the correct per pulse energy for that particular area on that patient is going to get you that 5 out of 10 on the pain scale. And that's where we want to be. The number of pulses that you do within that square, the ability to wait for the system to go little ding that says, hey, you reached 750 joules. That's our marker for, hey, we hit enough energy. This is now the part that what we want to look and see if we made a change. If we see a change, good, move on to the next square. If you don't see as much of a change as you want, go up, as you said, as high as 1,000 joules. And you've now optimized for the patient, you've optimized for the treatment area, and you've optimized for the comfort.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first time, I heard this concept, I actually treated one of our teammates on her neck, and I put topical cream on one side and no topical on the other. And at the end of the treatment just said, was there a difference? She actually preferred the side without, and I use cold air, both sides actually. I use cold air on both sides. And she actually preferred the side without the topical numbing cream. And I was like, oh, aha, okay, yeah. maybe this is true, which is just, I think we're just trying so hard to keep our clients comfortable that you just, you want to do as many steps, but it's actually working against you to do both the numbing and the cold air. And I will say for those listeners out there, I would say get the Zimmer. I mean, I appreciate like the fan concept, but like the Zimmer, we can use it with so many technologies and so many different ways for both safety and comfort that I think it's by far worth the spend as a clinic owner. We have multiple. So
most people have multiples. I mean,
right.
Nearly if you've got a fractional non-ablative or an ablative resurfacing device, you probably already have one, right? And so, it's definitely a recommendation. It's a great product. You can use it all day, every day, and the air temperature stays relatively stable. You don't need, for people out there that are worried about cost, you don't need to go and get the ultimate latest generation one. The mini cryo is plenty enough for Sofwave. That's plenty enough of cooling power for a Sofwave treatment. So. I know the company probably doesn't like me saying that, but it's the reality. The reality
it's still
is
one of their devices. You're dropping a plug for them. Why not appreciate that drop? Yeah.
So, and just think back to laser hair removal. I mean, do you really need the super duper one? No, you don't. But we use this type of cooling with everything that we do, and we know it helps with bulk cooling. Helps with total discomfort of any laser or energy-based device. So integrating that into your Sofwave should be a complete no-brainer.
100%. I mean, we want our clients to come back. We want them to say, oh yeah, I had the treatment and I can't believe how easy it was. Not like, oh my God, it was so painful, I would not do it. And having that one extra piece of equipment can make a significant difference in the overall experience for our clients. So
and of course that combined with TTE, which is, don't think the more you do per pulse, the better the results are going to be. It's the more energy you put into your square as total energy that gets you the better result. So does more energy make a difference? Yes, but a different measurement. It's not the per pulse energy, it's the total energy that makes the difference. And you already know this. People already know this because they already do it every day with their fractional lasers. If you've got a patient and you treat them, you can't treat them at 70 millijoules, you treat them at 50 millijoules, or you can't treat them at 20 millijoules and you treat them at 10 millijoules, what do? You just do more passes so that you accumulate the same amount of total energy. So that's the difference. It's exactly the same approach. And it's the right approach because Sofwave is a fractional device. It's not a bulk heating device. It doesn't play by the same rules as the other technologies. It's pretty much perfectly aligned to everything that you've already been doing with your fractional resurfacing technologies. And that was the point of TTE.
Well, and I think too with the TTE protocol, when it came out, I went and I actually emailed all of our team members that offer Sofwave, and I said, send me, how you're using the device now, because typically what happens is when we launch the device, we get training again, we get training again, and it starts to evolve in our clinic in terms of like how much energy is delivered or how many passes and when to do that and why. And it was interesting to see it really did match up in terms to higher levels, higher pulses, and maybe not at the highest energy level to keep the client more comfortable, but they naturally started to do just more passes. And at that point, we were treating bigger zones. But now to look at it and say, well, actually, we're going to be using less pulses per client, but not in the terms of like trying to save money. And that's not what the company is saying either. It's more so like just get to that total energy in the zone that it's needed. So it saves time for the client who's laying there. It saves time for the provider who's doing the treatment. And yet we're still at that high level of energy that's delivered for the result that, of course, we're all after.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a misunderstanding. I think, you're always playing a game of telephone when you design a protocol and it makes its way through the different layers down to the practitioner. And so one of the key things about Treat to Total Energy, and one of my mandates, my personal mandate when developing Treat to Total Energy was this is separate, right? There's the business goal of the company and then there's the clinical goal of the company. And my rule was, I don't want you doing more pulses per treatment. I want your pulses per treatment to either be the same at a higher comfort level or less than what you're doing today. And when if you just take Treat to Total Energy and you apply it the same way as you're applying, like make 10 or 12, 15 squares on a face, you've completely missed the point of TTE. And so you're treating less surface area in the more important zones, delivering a high amount of energy in there. And the number of pulses you do should roughly be the same, which for a company that, is investing in social media and the company that you have a consumable cost, it kind of goes against the company. It's just like, I should be trying to get you to do more pulses per patient, but that's not what I want. I want you to do less pulses per patient, higher efficacy, because I know for a fact that patient will, number one, tell their friends. That patient will probably want to get other parts of their body treated because they can clearly see a huge improvement. Because you haven't sprayed and prayed, you're going to see very clear reactions to the areas that you treat. And they might say, oh, now I want you to do a little bit further on my neck. Now I want you to do this a little bit on my arm. That's how we'll all grow together, is increasing the utilization of the number of treatments, not increasing the number of pulses used per treatment.
This episode is brought to you by Omni Bioceuticals, an expert innovator in skin, scalp, and hair care with a strong foundation in the medical aesthetic market. Omni Bioceuticals focuses on the future of regenerative aesthetics, combines scientific innovation, breakthrough technologies, and leadership committed to excellence and customer satisfaction. They merge cutting-edge American medical research with clinically validated skincare solutions trusted by leading dermatologists across the United States. Omni pioneers growth factors, exosomes, and peptide protein development, helping clinics achieve the highest standards for post-procedure recovery and daily skin and hair care routines. Every Omni formula is proprietary and patented, designed to maximize absorption of powerful active ingredients into the skin. If you're looking for science-driven, clinically validated skincare rooted in innovation, Omni Bioceuticals delivers. Learn more about Omni Bioceuticals and discover how their advanced formulations can elevate your aesthetic practice.
If you're using Mint e-courses but not attending Tuesday trainings, you're leaving value on the table. The first Tuesday of every month, we run 2 live sessions designed to help your team apply what they are learning. At 11:30 a.m. Central, we focus on business, consultation frameworks, pricing strategy, team performance, and operational systems. At 2:30 p.m. Central, we shift to clinical with treatment protocols, device strategy, and real-world application. These are not passive webinars. They are working sessions built from what is actually happening inside a $20 million med spa. If you are an eCourse subscriber, your entire team can attend at no additional cost. Show up, ask questions, and implement faster. This is where learning converts to revenue. See you there.
So as we look at like increasing the number of treatments, in our clinic, we launched a wellness program about 2 years ago. We started with GLP-1s. I can't believe it. It's been almost 2 years for that piece as well. Launched around the same time. So we see a lot of clients for both HRT, because thank God, there's more information out there about perimenopause, and it's not for women. Oh, I'm going to hit menopause. It's going to be 1 year and over. Sorry to say, it's a 10-year program of perimenopause before we hit menopause, and then all of the things that happen to us. But, that on top of clients that are pairing or doing it separately, the GLP-1s, and having some pretty significant weight loss and having so many other benefits that we see with GLP-1s as well. But with that, there has been an increase in laxity in the face, laxity in the abdomen, laxity in the arms. And so looking at, how do we as a clinic help them with the full big picture of they want to feel great? I mean, don't we all, so whether it's HRT and GLP-1s or one or the other, and then how do we help them look, like the way they feel? And so, I do see we have done a nice pairing with that. But I think if it is a clinic that's out there that's doing the wellness treatments like HRT and GLP-1s, you definitely want to have a treatment that then can help with some sort of lifting.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot in this sector, and again, I'm biased, but I think from our product offering that we have between Sofwave and Pure Impact, and we may talk about that later, but our whole pipeline and our approach is this total body regeneration, because there's not like one thing that you need to do. You need to do a bunch of different things for people that are in perimenopause or menopause, where they're crashing hard where it comes to their loss of collagen, elastin, circulatory, everything starts going down. This also happens with GLP-1s, as you mentioned. We don't know what the correct timing is, but we do know that there is substantial effects in fibroblast activity from GLP-1s. We definitely know of fibroblast suppression from perimenopause and menopause. So those fibroblasts are the guys that are responsible for regenerating new collagen and new elastin. And we need to work out a way to get ahead of that. So we're doing at least 3 different studies right now looking at the timing of your Sofwave and other modalities that you should be doing in order to push against that kind of cascade, that wave of anti-fibroblast activity, so that we can catch it before you're in a position 6 months down the line where everything is suppressed. So the top tip that I would give today, until we have some published data, is you want to get those patients sooner rather than later. The sooner you can get to them, like the month after they started, or the week that they started on their GLP-1, or the week that they started on their hormone replacement therapy, or whatever they're doing, you want to get them in and get them on a Sofwave program. And if possible, if you have the Pure Impact, get them on a whole body muscle generation program and combine those 2 things together. It doesn't mean that if they come in 6 months and they say, look, I'm depleted, I've lost laxity, it doesn't mean that Sofwave can't help them. I don't want people to get that idea, but I'm confident that the results will not be as good as, or they may need a couple of sessions if they're already in that depressed state. So we want to make sure that people are proactive here. We want to send the message to everybody that proactive approach, whether it be peptides, if it's illegal in your state or in your area, the total approach when it comes to hormone replacement, exercise augmented with Pure Impact, collagen stimulation, elastin stimulation augmented by Sofwave. It's really that package and being proactive about it that we think is very important. And that's literally our focus from this year onwards, which is to be the company known for having the best energy-based technology to help with total body regeneration for both of those categories.
And so what is Pure Impact? Let's just dive in because
So Pure Impact, if you looked at Pure Impact brochure, you could be mistaken for thinking that it's just another muscle stimulation technology. Because I mean, you look at a brochure, you go, oh, okay, this one sends electrical current into the tissue, this one's a magnet, this one's this. So it's just stimulating the muscle. And that's exactly the opposite effect that we were trying to achieve with Pure Impact. So what we were able to do, and again, you could look at us coming late to the muscle game, or you could look at it the way I look at it, which is we came with the correct technology for what you need in today's market in 2025 with GLP-1s and menopause and all these other longevity things and things like that. So our approach is very different. Our approach is not about getting you abs for summer, right? 30,000 sit-ups in 30 minutes and making sure your abs look good. That's not our approach at all. We've seen that approach. It's successful with some people. It fails with the vast majority of other people. It doesn't create a synergy between what they need to be doing at home or at their gym. We need a comprehensive total body muscle generation solution. So you can't just spot treat here and spot treat there and think that, oh, I'm going to be great for GLP-1s. GLP-1s don't care. They'll eat your muscles away wherever they are in the body. There also is no direct link to functional strength. And functional strength happens to be one of the number one markers for age and longevity. So when we took the approach of Pure Impact, we designed Pure Impact. Yes, it uses electrical energy that stimulates the muscle, but what it does completely different than any other technology is it can activate 6 areas simultaneously. But more importantly than activating the 6 areas simultaneously, it can change the direction of the muscle movement in real time. So it's literally an analog or a synthetic version of having a personal trainer sitting there teaching you how to do these exercises with the correct form. And form and function equal long-term stable improvement. So making sure patients don't plateau from the treatment, making sure that when they go to the gym, they feel stronger, their core's stronger, not just their core, their arms, every single metric that you could measure for functional strength, we improve. We have a study done by Kiyo Mosavagi that will be published shortly that has some wonderful results looking at functional strength. It's one of a kind study. Nobody's ever done this before, especially in our sector, but let alone in the sports physiological sector, where we've combined multiple functional strength exercises synthetically done with the device that actually directly correlated to functional strength improvements over a variety of tests, not just one, about 5 different functional strength-based tests. So we're very much invested in this. We're not the muscle device that you want to have a quick win. We don't think there's any quick wins with muscle. Muscle's one of those things. It's not like collagen. You gain it, you don't use it, you lose it. That's within 6 weeks. So whatever the technology that you're thinking of bringing into your practice, think about it in the context of the lifestyle and livelihood of each one of your patients as a journey, as something that needs to modulate, it needs to move, it needs to grow as the patient goes through their own journey over years, not over weeks. And so that's the core foundation of Pure Impact, and why it's, as we said, the most appropriate technology that we could give other than Sofwave to stimulate and do this total body regeneration, muscle and dermis.
Well, I had an opportunity to work with you with Pure Impact in Dallas. And so, when you hear all, the ways that it's basically like having your personal trainer, and there's different settings and modes. So it's not doing the same thing over and over again. And so as a provider that might be listening and thinking like, oh, I'm not a personal trainer, like, how am I supposed to figure that out? And so on film, you taught me how to do it. I had never done it before. And I was like, oh, this is like the easiest thing ever. Like, okay, I could literally, I could turn it on, set it up, turn it on, and get going. Like, after you see it once and do it once, I mean, I really feel like I'm ready to go with that. And so I think that's also a huge benefit for a clinic to know, if I bring on a technology, it's going to be a complex technology that's in terms of like doing so much, but a simple technology in terms of how to get the team up and going with it. And, the bigger the team gets, it's nice to have those treatments where it is such a simple onboarding process. And so I thought that was really impressive in terms of like the teaching method of getting it onboarded.
I mean, this was a critical design feature, right? So the team and I, we developed 70 different exercises that the machine can replicate. Now, it doesn't mean that, let's say that you're a sports physiotherapist and you know everything about the muscle. You could sit there and treat one muscle with, a couple of electrodes, and then after 15 minutes, move the electrodes to get a different direction. Then 15 minutes, move the electrodes. But you would have to know exactly how to do that for the biceps, the triceps, the abs, the obliques, the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, the upper back, the lower back. Think of all of those different areas. You need to know exactly how the muscles should be contracting to replicate a certain exercise, and then change the position, and then change the position, and change the position. Pure Impact is doing this all automatically. So you just need to know where to place the pads one time for the patient. Once you've placed those pads on the biceps, the triceps, and you've gone through the warm-up mode, which we did, it's the same placement for everything for the rest of that patient's life on Pure Impact. So you take a snap photo if you've got multiple providers and just put the electrodes in the same place. Every time Pure Impact starts up, it's going to go through that warm-up test procedure. You'll be able to tweak it if you need to, but normally you just won't if you place them in the same area. And then it will go through and it will automatically do all of those things that I said that it will do. Change the direction of the muscle movement, make sure the muscles are being contracted correctly. It's completely hands-free, completely hands-off. You don't even have to sit in the room and try and convince the patient that they need to get to 100%. We've eliminated that bad practice out of the muscle technologies as well.
A huge thank you to the sponsor of today's episode, Omni Bioceuticals, smart skin science for brilliant beauty. Learn more about Omni Bioceuticals at the link in our show notes.
Most clinics don't have a device problem. They have a utilization problem. You've invested in lasers, but inconsistent providers and underperforming consultations are limiting your revenue. The Laser Mastery Track is a 6-month performance program built to fix that. You get hands-on training with real patients across BBL, Moxie, Halo, RF microneedling, and more, plus structured consultation practice and competency validation. Then, Mint invests in your success with 6 months of coaching, case review, and revenue tracking to ensure training translates into predictable laser revenue. This is not a weekend training. It's a performance system built for clinics that expect a return on their devices. Go to mintaesthetics.com/lasermasterytrack 2026 to enroll today.
Earlier on, and I actually have talked a number of different times about fractional treatments, and this is totally off subject. But when I look at some of the technologies that we offer and have offered for years have been so successful with, we were having a conversation about just breakout post-fractional devices. Do you remember this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And we were talking about, I was just sharing some of like a couple of situations that I'd recently had and had some breakout. And you were like, oh, well, was it a rosacea client, and were you treating at this depth? And this is why. And I was like, oh my God, yes, yes, and yes. And so do you mind just sharing that tidbit of info?
So in a previous slide, full disclosure, I developed a 1927 device and 1550 device. So I have developed devices, fractional devices that do those go to those depths and have that. So I have real life experience with even for somebody like myself or my wife, as an example, who has a rosacea, and I noticed this very early on, about 5 or 6 years ago, that there was a tendency for people, because rosacea is acne, right? Acne, rosacea is the same condition. So if you aggravate the sebaceous gland, you're always going to have, whether you aggravate the sebaceous gland or you create coagulation or non-selective coagulation of the microvasculature, you're always going to create some risk factor for those breakouts and things like that, because the laser is attracted to water and it's just going to do those columns down the skin. And if those columns happen to hit some sebaceous units or create inflammation around the sebaceous unit, you can always get a purge and you can get one of those things. So it's really just, it's not something that you can count on, because it's kind of like pot luck, when you're doing a fractional device. The higher the density, of course, the higher the density and the higher the depth that you do, the higher the chances are that you're going to get that type of breakout. But there's also ways to mitigate that immediately post-treatment with cooling, topical steroids, and other methods of immediately reducing that inflammation in the tissue after you've done the fractional injury. That can also help. So it's just think of it logically speaking. If you're in the zone where you've got sebaceous glands and you accidentally create a bunch of inflammation from a fractional injury around there, you're going to have the risk of having those breakouts. It doesn't affect the treatment result, but it does affect how that patient's going to feel, the 5 to 7 days after the treatment.
It does 100%. I mean, even if, it feels like it, intensifies the downtime. Then they're thinking, especially if they'd had breakout as a teenager and they haven't had breakout for a while, and then they're like, oh my God, that breakout's back. And I hate to see that for them. And so whether or not, the results might be the same, but if we can make the downtime experience better in any way, like I'm always looking, how can we do that? And so when we were having the conversation, it made so much sense to me, because we do have a post laser procedure for clients that are prone to PIH. And so it's cooling the skin immediately post. Our doctor, we use clobetasol immediately post, and then they may use clobetasol, for maybe 2 to 3 days max. And a conversation of making sure that it's a cream-based topical steroid. If
and not a hydrogel or a cream-based, no oil, not an oil-based. I personally like to use the injectable version of Kenalog, because you've got a fractionated injury. You're not injecting it. You just have this pure form of triamcinolone. And you're using the little fractional columns to allow some of that, a percentage of that triamcinolone to get into the tissue. So and it doesn't have any oil. It's, water-based. It's not going to create any excessive, you don't want anything. As much as I like Nectar and other post-treatment lasers, they'll work against you in these situations, right? Because they're literally closing the holes. There's no breathability in the skin. It makes the inflammation last longer. So another tip, if you don't use clobetasol, if you want to, again, topical application of Kenalog, it's the same approach that we would take for a melasma treatment, shut down the inflammatory response. A lot of people ask me, well, if you're shutting down the inflammatory response, isn't that going to reduce our treatment result? I'm like, if it was a bulk heating technology, absolutely. But once you've created fractional damage, you can't reverse that, right? When you create a fractional injury, you're creating a fractional injury. The amount of fractional injuries are going to affect the treatment result, not like how quickly that fractional injury repairs or how quickly you reduce the inflammation from that fractional injury. So just remove that from your head. That's not a problem. Cooling the skin after treatment for fractional treatments or Sofwave treatments is not a problem. It will not reduce the result, and it will have benefits for those people that have the post-treatment inflammation. Another tip is you can use something like, some people are plus or minus on this, but you can use products like Moveso or even things like Benadryl or things that reduce the inflammation and reduce the microvasculature. You can pre-treat people with that have a tendency to have flare-ups like that, and that also can help, not just the post-treatment.
That's true. And we have used Benadryl for clients that are prone to PIH or melasma or, well, really the high histamine response of just swelling.
Yeah.
But
it works for
then
both
it's
of those
always,
cases.
can they drive on it? You know, it's that type of thing if they're taking it before. But I do think so many of us are set up to really concentrate like on cooling the skin post-treatment and then applying a topical steroid of some sort. I think the other thing is then looking to your point of, you know, what type of products are you sending home in the bag with them? If they are prone to breakout, if they do have that rosacea like skin, then maybe not sending home that ointment based topical product and really focusing on more of like a cream based product, something as simple as like CeraVe.
Yeah, and a gentle cleanser, right? And a gentle cleanser so that they're removing that bacteria and they're removing what's being purged out of those sebaceous units. It's very important.
I mean, I love having a hypochlorous acid spray in the post-care kit as well.
That's absolutely great one. That was one thing that COVID was a positive that we came out of that was hypochlorous acid. I think it's like probably one of the only positive things that we got out of COVID was using hypochlorous acid on everything, and it makes a big difference.
Everything. I mean, we were like making it to clean with at one point, and but you know, we've moved on. There's so many companies that bottle it up for you now. We haven't found a reason to do that, but yeah. So just before, you know, we end here, is there anything else you want to talk about from a technology standpoint? I think one thing I'd like to ask you is like 2026, you know, what do you see if I'm a clinic looking to do something new or I'm ready to bring something on, like what would be your suggestion?
So firstly, I think I said 2025 before, and I forgot that we're in 2026. So yeah, we are in 2026. So what you should expect to see. So for Sofwave, you're going to see us do more clinical validation of what we talked about, which is timings for GLP-1s, and actually looking at fibroblast activity, looking at perimenopause and menopause issues and how Sofwave and Pure Impact can benefit that. We have a lot of studies looking at blood work, blood markers, longevity markers that we're going to start to do with Pure Impact because it's a completely kind of new way to treat whole body muscle that I think we have a unique opportunity to validate a real systemic improvement from muscle technology, which has never been done before. We're obviously in the rollout right now of our Lift HD applicator, which allows you to basically halve the treatment time when you go into the body, which again is very important for people that are now using the Sofwave off face for patients with GLP-1s or just people that don't like the look of their arms.
I need one of those.
Yeah, halving that. You know, we're on back order right now, so get your orders in quick so you can get one. It's been very, very both Pure Impact VIP and Lift HD have been, you know, huge, sellers for us. We've been back ordered quite a lot on that. So my job and our job at Sofwave is to make sure that we get out of our back order situation because we want people to get these products. We don't want you sitting there waiting for them. But I think definitely for this year, total body regeneration, how to incorporate Sofwave, Pure Impact, but not just Sofwave and Pure Impact VIP into your practice. How do you incorporate Sofwave, Pure Impact VIP, GLP-1s, hormone therapy, maybe some peptides, the ultimate longevity mix and those two energy-based devices being part of this comprehensive whole body regenerative kind of matrix to really help people no matter where they are. If they're on the GLP-1 journey, if they're on the menopausal journey, if they just want to be the best person they could possibly be, to be the most active they could possibly be, we want to be the two technologies that are thought of as the best energy-based technologies to pair up with any of the other longevity treatments.
Well, I just think it's huge because, I feel so fortunate that we started in it. So we've got a foothold and a understanding and a physician that specializes in it. So I lean on her. But, it's such an impact. It makes such an impact on men and women who are at that age. And now there's so much that can be done, and their parents didn't know about it. Many of their friends don't know about it. So I can't shut up about it because I just think it's, it's made such an impact in my personal life, but also my friends and my family and our clients and our team members and their spouses. And it's just, the list goes on and on. So it's like that wellness piece is only going to grow. So if you haven't done it and you're listening to this, look at wellness. And the technologies that go around helping our clients not only feel better, but look better all along the journey. I just think, our industry, this is only going to get bigger.
Yeah, there's absolutely no point in you walking around with better, healthier skin when the other stuff isn't better or healthier either.
Yeah.
And for people who say, oh, we're in the aesthetic business, we shouldn't be doing functional strength, we shouldn't be trying to improve people's longevity, that's complete nonsense. Every single patient that you have in your waiting room that's coming in to look better wants to feel better. And if you're not part of that conversation, you're completely doing the wrong thing by your patients.
100%. I could not agree more. And I think there's so many ways to learn and get the education to feel comfortable and confident to offer the treatments and those are only growing in our space, right? So, of course, Mint Aesthetics, we're a training facility. And actually, if you're looking for more training, you have Sofwave, you have Pure Impact. We do offer lessons within our Mint e-course, and some new content will be coming out shortly. But we always want to make sure that we're offering the highest level of education with that, just to build that confidence. Because like me, I don't want to offer something I don't know how to do or believe in. And so we're always looking at how can we elevate that in our industry. So you've traveled the world, you've lived all over the world. What are like some of your top cities?
My top cities, in Asia, I love going to Japan. I worked for 6 years in Korea when I was CTO of one of the companies there. So I like Seoul. I like the Korean market. I will dispel a rumor. There is no such thing as K-beauty. This is a hype train of nonsense. All of their beauty trends come from technology that we developed or that we have developed in the US, and it's just riffing off that. So if anybody's like, oh, I want to get on the newest K-beauty trend, more than likely that's just a rehash of something that we've already had from us. So that's one like little disclaimer that I'll throw out.
I love that because people don't get
caught up in that. I know Koreans do a lot of weird things that we don't do and that we can't do because of FDA reasons, but it doesn't mean that we didn't think of them first. So I will put that as a disclaimer. So of course, I love going to Asia. I think it's very important to have technology that works across the board, and Asian skin, African-American skin, and Caucasian skin, they're all different. And so I enjoy, even though it's very taxing, I enjoy being able to pop into clinics at multiple places in the world and go, do I have a protocol? Am I developing a technology that is the best for everybody over the world? And that's why I do it. So.
Well, that's so helpful for, in the United States, obviously every demographic, but it is one of those things where it's like you love to turn on a device and say, I could help anyone that walks in the door with this. And
yeah, it's so just, I won't belabor the point, but I'll say one more point about this. I was watching on Instagram and all of these people were talking about, the latest Korean beauty technology is coming to the US. And I'm like, okay, great. So you're bringing in a technology that's going to work on 30% of the American population. That doesn't sound like that's a good business decision. Why don't you bring in a technology that works on 100% of the population in the US? So, these are the types of things that people can very easily get caught up in the hype of something. And what I would suggest that everybody do is just take a beat, take a cool down, think of your practice in your entire patient population and try and do research and find out what technologies are going to be best for your entire patient population, not just one small segment of it.
100%. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the global picture of things, but as a med spa, we are such a local company, right? So if we have followers from the UK and Australia, it doesn't really benefit aesthetic care. You know, I mean, we need like followers from Kansas City area. We need to be able to address the needs here. And I think, you know, we do tend to be, things trickle in a little bit slower for us in the Midwest. So we're always looking at, you know, being on the top of the industry and the best technology and the treatments. But even with that, sometimes we're pulling our clients along to jump in. But, you know, I think, you know, within our business, it's the focus is like, who is your client and how can we do our best to take care of them and not getting caught up in TikTok, which, did you know that TikTok sold more than Sephora and Ulta by far? I wish I could remember the number. It was so shocking. The TikTok shop. And so much of it, a lot of it was Korean, like the experiences of the videos where they put like this bright pink skincare product on their skin and it's sticky and they pull it out and the stick flaps back. It's like, I'm like, who wants to buy this for your skin? And yet those are the things they're selling. I'm like, oh,
you got spider venom, you have snail extracts, you have all of this funny stuff. You know, if you actually talk to doctors in Korea, they look at that stuff and laugh. So the real doctors that are practicing in Korea, they look at all of those little technology things as spa-like and, you know, nice to haves. They are not involved in it. The Korean and the Japanese doctors are some of the most critical physicians on technology in our space. And they are not part of the hype. They are part of the solution and making sure, and nearly all of those physicians are using American-made or American-developed or non-Korean developed products because they know that they come with science-backed results. And that's the most important thing for their patients.
So interesting. Maybe I just need to bottle that up and share it on our Aesthetic Care Instagram page. So you might see that there later.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and being willing to talk about all subjects and topics and sharing your knowledge with all of our listeners. I can't thank you enough. So is there anything else you want to say to finish this up?
No, if anybody wants to reach out to me, you please do that through Sofwave. I'm more than happy. As you know, I love talking to our customers. I love being able to help our customers. So if anybody's struggling or everybody wants to squeeze more out of their Sofwave, out of their Pure Impact, and they want to get a hold of me, they can approach through your Sofwave rep or representative PDM, and they will be able to get a hold of me, and then we'll have a direct connection. I really want to make sure that everybody has access to the latest and greatest information. And I really appreciate you having me on, and maybe in a few months we'll do another one and we can talk about something else. I
would love that. And I'm going to say that if you heard that and you don't take him up on that, I mean, he might, I hope you don't regret this, James, but your team will be so much more confident in the technology. It will elevate the treatments. Your patients will be happier. Your team will be happier. I cannot stress it. Like, that is an opportunity, like, take it 100%. And I also know you travel with Sofwave and do education you've got some events that are coming up this year. So attend the events. Like, make sure that you get this one-on-one time with James. I just think that would be an incredible moment for you and your team. So the offer is out there. I would say don't hesitate to grab it. Well, thanks so much for joining me on this episode of Making a Multi-Million-Dollar Med Spa podcast. I'm Kat Toronto, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Making of a Multi-Million-Dollar Med Spa podcast. I'm Kat Toronto, and it's been an absolute joy to be part of your journey. Until next time, let your passion lead the way. See you soon.